All right, looks like we are live, and let me real quick promote this thing, and we're going to go through some of the coverage of Richland Farms, and I hope while we're waiting here that anybody watching can click on the link that I provide. What up, Spooky? Nice to see you. Yeah, please click on the link, savethedogs.io. And we're going to take a look at some of the coverage of this rescue. I post this thing here. I've seen some of this. Also, some people have written about it that I haven't taken a look at yet, and I would like to. My friend Marina Bolotnikova of Vox has written about the rescue. It would be cool to read through what she had to say. Haven't read that yet. Marina has been an incredible partner with Vox. Incredible journalist covering animal rights issues. Sorry for my incompetence here and lack of professionality. I should have done this right before I went live, but I didn't. Okay, that's posted. All right, there we go. How are y'all doing? Let me just see who's here. Felix, what's up? Nice to see you. Okay, let me get out of that. Let's take a look first at this interview with Wayne. I'll say I've seen these interviews that we're going to review, so I'm not. This isn't a fresh reaction, unfortunately, but I want to highlight them. They were good. What's up, Wandering Mason? Nice to see you.
Dozens of activists forced their way to Ridgeland Farms near Madison on Sunday and left with more than 20 beagles. Ridgeland Farms has been in business for 60 years. It breeds beagles for biomedical research. We've been on top of this story from the beginning. We talked with an activist who took the dogs. We also talked with a rep from Ridgeland Farms. Now that he's out of jail, we're talking with the man who led the effort. Wayne Xiong is a longtime animal rights activist and attorney known for what he calls open rescues. And Wayne joins us live on Wisconsin's Midday News. Thanks for joining us, Wayne.
It's my pleasure. I appreciate the opportunity.
So you call this an open rescue. Law enforcement calls it burglary and trespassing. Why should the public accept your definition over the laws?
Well, partly because some of the most distinguished legal scholars in the nation agree with our theory. The reality is, if an animal is being abused or is suffering, say a dog in a hot car, you do have the right to break the window and care for that animal. And the same is true if thousands of animals are being tortured in cages. Ridgeland Farms has been implicated in at least hundreds of counts of felony animal abuse, including surgical mutilation of dogs. The Department of Agriculture has cited them hundreds of times. The Veterinary Examining Board has taken the license away from their head vet. And even the special prosecutor who's working buddy-buddy with them to cover up the abuse concluded in a report that there's clear evidence of felony animal abuse. The only thing that hasn't happened in this case is actually doing something to protect the dogs.
So, Wayne, why is it that a court has not convicted Ridgeland Farms of what you suggest?
It's a great question. I've asked myself many times as well, and I think the answer is collusion. Prosecutors have been unwilling to bring a case, and that's really a question for District Attorney Lozon or Gernke as to why they haven't actually brought a case.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, I have called the Dane County District Attorney numerous times now because I was...
Just a little preview. They did talk to the special prosecutor, Tim Grinke, and it's a doozy. We are going to take a look at that interview. Wow. I was floored by that interview, and I'm sure you will be too, but we'll take a look at that.
Surprised, and I think both sides were surprised that you got out of jail yesterday. You and some of the others got out of jail. I talked with your side, and I talked with Ridgeland Farms, and both sides were anticipating that once out of jail, there would be an initial court hearing and that we would learn about charges. But there was no court hearing scheduled. And I've called the Dane County District Attorney's Office numerous times now and have emailed as well and have not gotten a response. In part, I know because they've told me that the rep who's answering the phone that they are being bombarded. Whether people agree with you or not, there are two sides here. You do have a lot of passionate supporters who you are basically saying call the district attorney's office about this. Is your ultimate goal to eliminate the use of animals for biomedical research? Is that accurate?
I think our ultimate goal is just to stop animals from being hurt. Anybody who's got a dog or cat, or really just seen any animal suffering, knows that these animals can feel pain just like us. And again, there's just no doubt these animals are suffering. Everyone from Mark Beckoff, a very distinguished animal scientist at the University of Colorado, Patricia McConnell, one of the University of Wisconsin's most prominent animal scientists, have concluded the conditions they originally are torture. Just one factual detail that's just incontrovertible. The animals live for their entire lives in a 2-foot by 4-foot metal cage. They never step outside. They never get to play in a yard. They never even smell the fresh air or see the sunlight once in their lives. That's a reality for every dog at Ridgeland Farms. And that is why a Superior Court judge in Dane County concluded that there's clear evidence of animal cruelty. Now, again, Ridgeland is right that no charges have ever been officially filed against them. But that's not a question of whether there's evidence of animal abuse. That's a question of whether there's corruption in the enforcement of the animal cruelty laws. And the answer to that question, unfortunately, is yes.
I want to play a clip real quickly here. This is from Ridgeland Farms attorney Eric McLeod, who we talked to on Monday, and he talks specifically about the previous case. Let's listen to this.
The Dane County District Attorney Ishmael Ozan refused to pursue any charges against Ridgeland Farms. And I obviously don't speak for the Dane County District Attorney, but one might presume that the Dane County District Attorney refused to pursue criminal charges based on animal cruelty allegations because he didn't see that there was any evidence that supported those claims.
So that's also...
I pointed this out the other day on a different channel that Ishmael Ozan responded to a reporter asking him about why they haven't charged Ridgeland Farms and misspelled Ridgeland Farms, spelled it RIDGELAND. For anybody following this knows it's RIDGLAN, proving that he didn't even bother to look into it. And the special prosecutor who was appointed to this case, Tim Grinke, did not even bother to visit the place, was investigating, quote unquote, this place for 8 months and did not step foot on their facility. Ishmael Ozan couldn't spell Ridgeland Farms, clearly didn't look into it or take it seriously. So that's the answer to this reporter's question.
Why we are contacting the Dane County District Attorney to hear exactly from the District Attorney. Wayne, are you lobbying for legislative change? Why break in and take dogs? Part of it seems like this is for show. I mean, I know all of this is all over social media. In fact, we've got videos that are playing on our streaming feed as well. Is part of the goal here to provoke arrests and court battles to just draw attention to your cause?
Yeah, I mean, obviously you need to raise consciousness. There's no question about that. But on that specific question of whether the Dane County District Attorney has actually reviewed the evidence,
what up,
Brian? Part of the reason he hasn't seen any evidence of animal cruelty is because he's refused to talk to anyone who has evidence, including me. But it's not just me. We're talking about world-renowned experts. I mean, Jane Goodall, of all people, wrote a Washington Post editorial about how horrific the cruelty was at Ridgeland Farms. 2 former employees from Ridgeland Farms were agreeing to testify, and District Attorney Grunke and Ozan refused to talk to either of them. And the conditions they were describing were not kind of minor neglect issues. I mean, you have one employee saying he found a live puppy in a freezer bag being thrown away in the garbage. Another employee said he was forced to surgically mutilate animals with no veterinary training at all, with no veterinarian even present, on one of his first days at work, and he had to quit his job. So you have employees, some of the most renowned animal welfare experts in the nation, and thousands of ordinary people hear about this, begging the district attorney to even talk to someone who has witnessed some of this abuse, and they were not even willing to talk to any of us. So again, the question here that should be asked is not why did we feel like we had to take direct action, because I think direct action is in part of American democracy now for 200 years. The question is, why are the authorities so unwilling to do what the people ask them to do, which is simply enforcing animal welfare laws?
Wayne, you're highly educated. Your resume is incredibly impressive. You're also a convicted felon for action similar to this in other states. Why is attaching the word felon to your name worth the risk to you?
Yeah, you know, when I was a kid in China at 8 years old, I saw dogs being killed for the first time, and it traumatized me for life. I still have nightmares to this day from what I saw. And I came to the United States, and I found a nation that I thought was kind to dogs and to other animals. In many ways it is. I think most ordinary people see what happens to animals in these conditions, and they want our government, they want big corporations to do the right thing, and they hope they actually do. And part of the reason I'm willing to risk this is because I think the system is broken. I think when even the USDA, so the watchdog for these animal research facilities, their own inspector general has said for 30 years, since 1995, in every single IG report, this is his own quotation, but the enforcement of the animal cruelty laws is basically meaningless. That's his quote, his words. So when citizens see in a democracy that the enforcement of the laws is corrupt, that the basic provisions of law that we expect to be administered fairly for all of us, including animals, are not being administered fairly, then the history of this country shows that sometimes citizens have to engage in nonviolent direct action. That's what we did this Sunday.
We're talking with Wayne Shung, animal rights activist who led this group to break in at Ridgeland Farms in Dane County over the weekend and take dogs, Beagles. Critics, including a lot of animal lovers, say this crosses a line. If everyone broke into places because they believed they were right.
I haven't heard much. I don't know what critics she's talking about because it's been like 99% support. So I don't know if she's just making it up or what, but I haven't heard anybody say this crossed any line, except for people who sent for the farming industry, which, yeah, there's a lot of people like that.
Where would that lead? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I understand that. I think that's a great rule in the rule of law, and I'm a lawyer myself. My family came to this country from a country that did not enforce the rule of law, and it's one of the reasons we've had so much success and luck and privilege, because we live in a society that engages in the rule of law, not the rule of man. And the reality is what's happening here is the rule of law is being violated by Ridgeland Farms. We have animal cruelty laws that say animals must not be housed in a way that causes psychosis. We have animal cruelty laws, for example, that only veterinarians should administer surgery, and surgery should be done with anesthesia. These laws have to be enforced. And when Ridgeland Farms is able to flagrantly violate this law and these laws, and the powers that be are not even willing to look at the evidence of the abuse, then there's a big problem in our society. So I think the nature of civil disobedience and nonviolent direct action for 200 years, since Henry David Thoreau, and certainly through the anti-slavery movement, through the women's suffrage movement, the civil rights movement, has been to use the power of nonviolent direct action, civil resistance, to illustrate defects in the system. And a lot of those defects involve vulnerable parties who don't have a lot of power. There's no party in our country today more powerless than a puppy inside a research facility at a place like Ridgeland Farms.
So, Wayne, we've got the video streaming right now. If people text the word walk to our talking text line, they can see. And I understand that there's a bit of a shock value when you see this play out. In fact, I don't know if we're doing the story and continuing with it over the last couple of days. If this video doesn't exist, if there was a lawsuit filed, it might just sort of get swept under the rug. I am wondering, however, with your law background, if you've tried to move this forward in a way that does bring to light everything that you suggested and maybe argues against the collusion that you believe is happening on the other side.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. And I actually have a piece in Harvard Law Review that I wrote just a couple of years ago about this concept called voluntary prosecution, where you voluntarily submit yourself to prosecution in order to have the platform of the criminal trial to elevate some defect in the legal system. And certainly if you look through American history, our history is replete with this sort of activism. You know, from Martin Luther King Jr., certainly, during the civil rights movement, anti-war protesters and free speech protesters.
Brian, I just learned yesterday that we're going back to Ridgeland, so I don't know. I don't know the answer to that question. But I'm going. I will be there, and I will try to save Beagles from this place. And I'm happy to say that publicly, and I would encourage everybody to join me and come along. Click that link right there that I've pinned, savethedogs.io. You can sign up, and we're hoping thousands of people show up and take Beagles from this place. There are 2,000 Beagles at Ridgeland Farms. If 2,000 people come onto the property and bring a Beagle out, that will be every Beagle saved. So let's do that. And not any one person can make this happen. People need to share this information out and get the word out, and tell your friends, tell your family, tell anybody you know that you think might be concerned about this. Encourage them to show up to Ridgeland Farms.
I spent most of the last 13 years in the Bay Area, and the free speech protesters and anti-war protesters who said we have a right to say we're against this war at a time when the country sometimes was going after journalists. Remember the Pentagon paper story, right? They were literally trying to criminalize the mere publication of the facts about war. And people decided that they needed to break those laws because there was a higher law that would have been violated, the Constitution of the United States. And so similarly, in a case like this, where certainly I believe that the laws against trespass, against theft are totally appropriate. I think they should be enforced. I also believe there are higher laws, violent crimes, that need to be enforced as well. And when people are serially abusing defenseless animals, engaging in trespass to take them to a veterinarian is simply not a crime.
Wayne, we've got 30 seconds left here. If a court orders those dogs returned, will you comply?
We will not. That would be an unlawful order. And just as if a court said that we had to return a child to someone who was abusing them, we would certainly not do that. If a court ordered someone to violently attack someone else, we would not do that. And similarly, if a court is trying to convince us that we have to send a victimized dog back to their abuser, contrary to laws of the state of Wisconsin, then the court is behaving lawlessly. So I don't imagine the court's going to do that. But if a court were to do that, I don't imagine we would comply.
That's Wayne Shung, longtime animal rights activist and attorney. Thanks so much for joining us in Wisconsin's Midday News.
Yeah, thank you.
And you can see all of our interviews throughout the week from both sides.
Isn't it interesting, by the way, how different that tone was? Because they interviewed another rescuer like 2 days prior to that, or even the day before, named Jennifer, who had saved Beagles, who wasn't a lawyer, was a school teacher. And their tone with her was very different. It was, answer the question, are you a criminal? Then they got Wayne Shung, who they respected and feared. And the tone was very different, wasn't it? Oh my goodness, was that a different type of interview? I thought that was quite funny. But here's the doozy. So that was a beautifully conducted interview by Wayne. And kudos to the journalists. I thought that was a great interview too. I thought their interview with Jennifer was ridiculous. And the reporters were acting more like prosecutors than journalists. But whatever. I do think that they did a good job in this interview. So I will give them credit for that. This is 620 WTMJ, Wisconsin's only radio station, apparently. Not a lot of radio in Wisconsin, I guess. But yeah. All right, here's this other one. Let me link to that. Make sure you guys let Wayne and let that radio station know what you think. And I thought, just beautifully stated by Wayne. I mean, he's good. He knows how to handle these interviews very well. Also, by the way, Jennifer, school teacher, I would assume fairly new to this stuff, also handled herself so beautifully in that interview the other day too, even when they were trying to press her. They ended up looking pretty silly, I thought. Trying to press a school teacher about how she's a criminal. All right, so this is this one's funny. Why no criminal charges? Special prosecutor breaks down Ridgeland Farms case. This is the same radio station again, the only station in Wisconsin that exists. All right, let's take a look.
Activists broke into Ridgeland Farms in Dane County. Dozens of animal activists broke into Ridgeland Farms in Dane County over the weekend and took more than...
And I'm not going to speed this one up because I really want to hear the way that Tim Greinke responds. I want to hear every inflection, every stammer, every sweat drip. I want to hear all the drops of sweat pouring from his beady forehead.
20 Beagles. They called it an open rescue. Ridgeland Farms has been breeding dogs for biomedical research for decades. In fact, it's been in business in Dane County for 60 years. It's also been under intense scrutiny. While emotions are running high after this latest incident, there's an important piece of context that can't be ignored.
She does.
A special prosecutor spent months investigating whether what was happening at Ridgeland Farms actually crossed the line into criminal behavior.
Spooky, thank you so much. That helps a ton. Travel's expensive. That is really so kind of you, Spooky. I appreciate that. And I even have people asking me for help to get there as well. And that will go a long way. So thank you for your generosity, Spooky. I am going to try to pay attention to this chat so that I don't miss anything. But Spooky, my God, you are the best. By the way, Spooky, I think you're UK based, right? Do watch out for the convergence that's happening in the UK with Animal Activism Collective in a few weeks. Check it out if you're interested. Just follow Animal Activism Collective's channel for that. So that would be Ireland. Gotcha. Okay.
That investigation ultimately led to a major change at the facility, but no criminal charges. So what did he find? Lacrosse County District Attorney Tim Granke joins us live now with the details. Thanks so much for joining us, Tim.
Sure, no problem.
So you led the investigation into Ridgeland Farms last year.
Nope. He said he did, or did he say he did? No, he didn't investigate them.
Can you first explain to our
He
fans
was ordered to. He didn't.
why you were brought in as a special prosecutor?
The Dane County District Attorney's Office did not prosecute the case, and so citizen activists went to a judge, which is a rare thing done in Wisconsin, but it is possible, to ask the judge to issue a complaint. The judge did find there was probable cause for various violations of the law.
Tim, look at me, Tim.
And so citizen
Repeat. I want to hear it again, Tim.
activists went to a judge, which is a rare thing done in Wisconsin, but it is possible, to ask a judge to issue a complaint. The judge did find there was probable cause for various violations of the law, and then needed to
Say it again. One more time, Tim. One more time.
did find there was probable cause for, to ask a judge to issue a complaint. The judge did find there was probable cause for various violations of the law, and then needed to appoint a prosecutor to
The judge did find that there was probable cause for various violations of the law. Tim Grinke.
handle the case, and so she appointed me to handle the case. That was
Her one mistake, apparently, appointing you, Tim. Otherwise, great job, Rhonda. But Tim, we could have done better, right? Why Tim? Why Tim?
my involvement in it. Basically, the judge giving me the authority to prosecute the charges that she found probable cause for.
Tim, as part of your involvement, did you visit the facility and take a tour inside and out?
I did not. No, never went there.
You reviewed a ton, though. After everything you reviewed, did Ridgeland Farms break the law?
Let's hear that again.
Never went there.
And take
Probable cause for it.
Tim, as part of your involvement, did you visit the facility and take a tour inside and out?
I did not. No, never went there.
You reviewed
I did not. Never went there. Investigated them for 8 months and did not bother to show up. So if anybody's wondering why activists are taking action now, it's because of people like this. And look at his face, by the way. This is the guy, by the way, who was, I'm pretty sure it was him who was pressing Jennifer the other day, asking her if she was a criminal. Look at his face right now with that answer. Everybody just zoom in, if you can, on that reporter and the answer that he got from Tim Grinke.
a ton, though.
Tim, as part of your involvement, did you visit the facility and take a tour inside and out?
I did not. No, never went there.
You reviewed a ton, though. After everything you reviewed, did Ridgeland
Look
Farms
at him. His brain is broken right now. Tim, did you visit the place that you were tasked with investigating? I did not. Didn't bother. Look at him struggling to process that. Oh, man. Same, dude. Me and you. We're like this now. You know what? I was a little tough on you the other day. Now I feel like we're kindred spirits, right? You had to hear this. Like, I will admit that maybe I was hard on you because you were probably pretty new to this story and you didn't know how ridiculous it is. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. This fuck. Jesus Christ. Jesus fuck. I don't know what else to say. You know, they're probably, you know, if they ever bring charges against me, they're going to go back to my live streams. I'm going to be all, try to be all calm on the stand. And then they're going to be like, oh, but this is the real guy. I'm like, yeah, that's the real guy. The guy that's saying, Jesus fucking Christ, you didn't visit the place. That's me. That's me.
break the law? A ton, though.
I did not.
You visit the facility and take a tour inside and out?
I did not.
Nope.
No, I never went there.
You reviewed a ton, though.
Do
After
we need to hear
everything
anything
you
else? Do we should that can that clip be just played on repeat?
reviewed, did Ridgeland Farms break the law?
The number of violations that Judge Landford found were not something that I could prosecute because the majority of them were either very old, so beyond the statute of limitations, like going back to like 2010,
Oh, damn.
or there were violations that were what I would call a technical violation that any business or farm might have on an inspection.
Oh, they all do it. Okay, gotcha.
Where things were remedied, things were fixed. And based on investigations by the state, DATCAP, and the USDA, I found that most of them just did not have any evidence to go forward. The only
How did you find that they had no evidence when they found violations? Tim, did you even bother to read them? Did you look into them? I am seriously baffled. So I was out of the loop, by the way. So after the Ridgeland trial, after the charges were dropped, I kind of returned to my normal life. I went back. I returned to other things, and Wayne was still working on this, and Wayne was emailing back and forth with Tim, I suppose. And at some point, I hadn't heard about Ridgeland in a while. At some point, Wayne was publicly talking about it again and had mentioned that Tim had just stopped responding to his emails, which is an odd thing to do when you're looking into a place and the people who filed the complaint and got that are trying to contact you. It seems a little strange that you would not be returning those emails. But, now hearing Tim speak about this, now it all makes sense to me. He's lazy. He's incompetent, immoral, and an empty suit. And look, like they get a little photo of him with his suit on. I don't know how you put on a suit and go out there and say shit like this. I don't know how you do that. Whenever I don't wear suits very often, Tim. When I put a suit on, I feel like, okay, what I say matters now. I got the suit on. People are going to look to me for like mature adult things to say. I can't be cursing out Tim Greinke on a live stream. But that's not you, apparently. Of course, I don't know what you were wearing during this interview. Maybe you were just sitting on the pot, calling in, maybe. Is that what you did, Tim? Because it does seem like a lot of shit's coming out of your mouth right now.
only one that I did find there was some evidence that I could charge would be what we call the chariot procedures.
Just the surgical mutilation of beagles, right, Tim? Just that one. That's the only one I could charge.
Was found.
Say again.
USDA, I found that most of them just did not have any evidence to go forward. The only one that
you might have looked for it.
I did find there was some evidence that I could charge would be what we call the chariot procedures, and that was found to have been done a number of times to dogs without proper veterinary service. So I thought I had probable cause to charge that. I would not say that they committed a crime because they're innocent until proven guilty, and I could only say that I had enough to charge, but decided not to because we reached an agreement. But whether
I want to point out another thing that I have not, I've been failing to point out, and I wish I had been pointing this out, that Ridgeland's veterinarian, Richard Van Domelen, has been suspended. And this even went to an appeal, and a judge upheld that suspension. And it's for this reason. So remember the other day when Ridgeland's attorney, Eric McLeod, was giving his veterinary opinion on how the dogs were? I should have remembered that their actual veterinarian was suspended. So maybe Eric McLeod is now acting veterinarian for Ridgeland. I don't know. I don't know who is doing that. But yeah, it's a bit of a mess over there at Ridgeland, isn't it, Tim? Bit of a mess. Yeah.
They're actually guilty or not is something I can't say. That would have been for a jury or a judge to decide later.
Oh, thanks for clarifying that, Tim. Yeah, I'm sure when you charge people with crimes, you're quick to point out they're not guilty of the things I'm charging them with. Jesus Christ. Something in the water there in La Crosse. I don't know. It's a dairy state. You know, Wisconsin is a dairy state. So there is probably a lot of pollutants in the water.
Can you briefly explain for our fans who don't know what that procedure is, and then also why you made the decision not to file the charges?
So the procedure is very, very oversimplified. Is a dog has a problem with the glands around their eyes. They become swollen and they need to be removed. And Ridgeland Farms had been doing this procedure for decades, since the 60s, but they were doing it in kind of a crude manner by just removing the glands with knife or scissors without any anesthesia.
Scissors, yeah, just some scissors with no pain relief at all. Just removing parts of the dog's body with scissors. That's all. That's all, Tim. Yeah, that's it.
And not really following surgical procedures.
Whatever.
Standards have improved since the 60s, and they did not keep up with the times. And that's why the veterinary board decided to suspend the veterinarian's license. So that's basically what the procedure is and why I thought that there was a violation. In terms of why I made the agreement I did, the grant of authority I had only would allow me to charge them with a crime, but charging a corporation with a crime would only lead to perhaps a fine or maybe some type of...
Here's Tim trying to gaslight you into thinking that he couldn't really do anything about this and that he got the best result for the dogs. No, Tim, sorry. And I just need to point you to the Envigo case where they got involved at the highest levels, ran this up the chain, shut that fucking place down, and got the Beagles out.
Probation where we could supervise them, but we already are. It wouldn't allow me to close the farm, to seize the dogs, to shut them down or punish the owners personally.
Oh, nobody can do anything about this, I guess. You know, I've heard a lot of people are saying that they're contacting Dane County and they're being referred to the Department of Agriculture. It's so weird because I read a quote from DACAP the other day that said that Dane County authorities have the absolute authority to act if they believe that the law has been violated, anti-animal cruelty laws have been violated. So I don't know, like who does have the authority, Tim, if not the special prosecutor? Yeah, maybe send it to another person. You know, when people call, make sure that they are on hold for a while, send them to someone's voicemail, make sure you give them an email to the Department of Agriculture. Sure, they're going to do something about it. Oh, yeah. Their interest is definitely protecting animals. The Department of Agriculture. Yeah, that's who wants to protect animals. Sure, Tim. Yeah, so I don't know. Apparently we're in this new Kafka-esque world that, Kafka wrote about where you guys should read the trial. This is like the trial for Kafka that Kafka wrote about. And there seems to be no end to the labyrinth that we're expected to go through to get you to do your job.
So when the farm agreed to say, instead of being charged criminally, how about we just close down that part of our business, the breeding part? And I thought that was, in the long run, better because that's more than I could have done had I charged it.
Well, you sure did a lot, Tim. Yeah, you sure did a lot, as evidenced by the fact that you didn't visit the place to begin with. Didn't even bother to go there. So what Tim is saying is that I have now been to Ridgeland Farms more time than he has been. You want to ask me, Tim? You want to talk to me? Since I'm now more of an expert at Ridgeland Farms than you? Me? You want to talk to school teachers and grandmothers who showed up?
completed the goal, which was to end the business at Ridgeland Farms, at least that part of the business.
Oh, that part of the business. Yeah. What about the 2,000 Beagles, Tim? What about them?
And so I think that satisfied our view and the activist view.
Oh, yeah. Sure. Yeah, that's what it did. That's what it did, Tim. How's that playing out for you again? Did that really satisfy the activists? I mean, if it had satisfied the activists, don't you think you would not be on the air right now talking about it? It's a very strange comment that he just made, that he viewed that this was an adequate thing for the activists, that the activists thought that this was a good idea. Yeah. Now, I mean, certainly there was celebration that a part of their business was shutting down, but we had to temper that celebration with the news that nothing was going to be done for the 2,000 plus Beagles that were still there at Ridgeland Farms, and that the authorities in Dane County seem incapable of doing anything about. Their phone lines are lit up right now. They're transferring people all over the place. Everybody's voicemail's full. By the way, keep calling them. They're hoping that people will just get bored of this and move on to something else. Let's see how that plays out for them.
And while it didn't punish them for the past behavior, it did more than what I could have done had I charged it.
So, Tim, just to double back, you said that you did not visit the farm. Could that have aided in your reporting and understanding of what was happening there and the conditions inside?
I don't know, because the
maybe you should know the answer to that question. Tim Grinke, special prosecutor appointed to investigate this issue. Maybe you should have an answer to that question. And if the answer is I don't know, then maybe you should fucking go. Maybe you should fucking go there, Tim. Jesus. I have never encountered incompetence like this. Have I? I don't know. Have I? Surely I have. I just, at a high level, a really high level. Man, you're her one mistake, Rhonda Lanford, this guy. This baffles me. These people put on suits and do this shit.
I wasn't viewing the farm as it is today.
They're respected members. People are probably proud of them. They're like, I know Tim Grinke, La Crosse County District Attorney. Oh, I'm proud to know this guy. Oh, he wears a suit and, he goes and prosecutes people, puts bad people in jail.
Yeah, I was relying on incidents that happened in the past. So I relied on the investigators from DATCAP and the investigators from the USDA, the witnesses that observed the incidents. So I was not
Tony?
prosecuting.
Yeah, Tony, I've got the CNN interview pulled up. I have something to say about that, too.
The business, the witnesses that observed the incidents. So I was not prosecuting the business for how they're running their business today. I was prosecuting for things that happened months and years ago to certain dogs. So it'd be kind of like if a theft happened at a business and they changed their security system, going to it a year later, it's not the same as what was going on then. So I was relying on paperwork and documents and investigators that viewed the incidents, documented the incidents, and had enough to charge based on that. On then. So I was relying on a month of business. I was not from DATCAP.
Let's hear his full answer again. I
don't understanding of what was happening there.
I can't believe how pathetic this sounds. I wonder, if he got just roasted by his friends and family after this. God, they were probably embarrassed about this.
And the farm,
if they heard it.
So, Tim, just to double back, you said that you did not visit the farm. Could that have aided in your reporting and understanding understanding of what was happening there and the conditions inside?
I don't know, because I wasn't viewing the farm as it is today. I was relying on incidents that happened in the past. So I relied on the investigators from DATCAP and the investigators from the USDA, the witnesses that observed the incidents. So I was not prosecuting the business for how they're running their business today. I was prosecuting for things that happened months and years ago.
Oh, we know, Tim.
To certain dogs. So it'd be kind of like if a theft happened at a business and they changed their security system, going to a year later, it's not the same as what was going on then. So I was relying on paperwork and documents.
It's actually not anything like that, Tim. It would be more like if there was a business that was abusing people, right? And there was all this documentation about it. Sure, they may have changed their security after 3 of those people were taken out of there. But the fact is that you let them stay in business, Tim, and did nothing for the victims inside that place that, again, even you, who didn't even bother to look into it, apparently, concluded that you had ample evidence to charge them with crimes. I even wonder if he really even like looked at it, because he's talking about the cherry eye surgery, and that's what's in the public record. I'm speculating. I don't know. It's got to be tough to be Tim Greinke. I just got to say that.
Documents and investigators that viewed the incidents, documented the incidents, and I had enough to charge based on that.
You just relied on that and didn't bother to reach out to any of them, I guess. Is that right, Tim? Is that right? Correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, because I'm sure you're going to explain to us how we're all wrong and you're right in this situation, right?
Many people, and not just people here in Southeast Wisconsin, not just people across the entire state of Wisconsin or the country, but I mean, around the world. I can see it from covering the story. I mean, people are writing on my Facebook page right now from different parts of the world about the story because they are so upset in some cases. Many people understandably upset over treatment of animals anywhere. There are a lot of animal lovers. But you say...
animal lovers. Yeah, let's just dismiss the people who are concerned about this as just mere emotional animal lovers, lady. Could you maybe just frame this in a bit more of a serious way? Yeah.
I went through your special report. You say that the reality is...
You don't even have to like animals. You could be a dog hater and understand that this is terrible.
That Ridgeland Farms' business model was not unusual. So for all those people who are still upset, what do you suggest that they do?
What a question. For all those people who are upset that you cut a deal with animal abusers and allowed them to stay open and did nothing for the 2,000 Beagles that are still there and still subject to the treatment of people that you had evidence enough to charge with felony animal cruelty. What do you suggest that those mere animal lovers, those emotional, just bleeding heart liberals, what do you say, Tim?
Well, I am aware of people from around the world who have contacted me as well, and I know that they've contacted other state agencies as well. One thing I would say is try to do a little bit of research and don't believe.
Don't believe what you hear, guys. Just don't believe what you hear. It's a good thing that we're hearing from Tim now so that we know that you didn't even bother to visit the place. Should we believe that? You said we shouldn't believe everything that we hear, Tim. Should we believe you? Who should we believe, Tim?
Everything you read on the internet. So try to do a little, know that they've contacted other state agencies as well.
That's the problem, guys. that's the problem we have, is that all these people who are concerned about the dogs, they just didn't do enough research. You got to research this, guys. You got to really look into it. And then you might conclude that actually Ridgeland Farms they're fine. Yeah, I think the more you learn about this case, the more you would side with Ridgeland. Yeah. That's definitely how it's playing out for me. I'm definitely inching back towards the Ridgeland side the more I hear about this, Tim.
Well, one thing I would say is try to do a little bit of research and don't believe everything you read on the internet.
My bad, Tim. I will admit, I did not read your long-winded ass report. No, I didn't. No, I did not subject myself to the words of Tim Grinke. I did not. I will own that. That was a failure on my part, guys. I should have read that thing. I still haven't read it. I ain't gonna read it. Fuck you, Tim. Fuck you, Tim.
Some of the things that were alleged,
I've heard enough from you, Tim.
Just weren't true. I mean, they just didn't happen, and there's no other way to say that. So people are getting upset about some things that just didn't happen.
Oh.
And I think they're jumping to the emotion of hearing a dog being mistreated without understanding what the facts are and what actually happened and what the truth is. So first, I would say just don't believe everything you read on the internet. Secondly, I would say it doesn't do a lot of good to flood Dane County services with emails and calls, because that just slows them down in what they're actually trying to do.
Which is what? What are they trying to do, Tim? Slows them down from what they're trying to do, which is nothing, right? Slows them down from doing nothing. Okay, so in the words of Tim Grinke, don't call. Don't voice your concerns. Don't be a citizen of this country. Don't exercise your First Amendment rights. Just stop. Just stop. Guys, be quiet. Hush up about it. Look, they got this. Look, it's in good hands, okay? Dane County's on top of this. That first rescue was in 2017. It's now 2026. It's only been 9 years, guys. It's only been 9 years. Give them 10. Come on. I'm sure they'll get to it. Come on. Like, look, you guys are so emotional. That's the problem with you guys. You don't research. You're so emotional, and you just don't understand that the wheels of justice take some time to turn, okay? Just be patient, okay? I mean, dogs, maybe not the dogs originally, but some dogs live to be like 15, 16 years old, right? Bramble, the border collie, I believe, the vegan dog, was 27, was the longest living dog. So, I mean, give it 27 years. How about that? Maybe a dog at Ridgeland will live to be 27. Maybe. Right, Tim? So let's see, 27 years. Let's see, 2017 to 27. What's that math? 37. 44. 2044. Is that it? Did I get that right? 2044. Okay. All right. Let's be reasonable, guys. Give them time. All right. In 2044, if this is still not dealt with, then maybe send an email. Okay. Then, okay. Then in 2044, you can send an email, and that would be reasonable. But before then, this is ridiculous that you guys are you're so emotional, you animal lovers. And you don't. I just wish you guys would do some research about this before you speak out against animal cruelty. You're getting all emotional about things that maybe didn't even happen. I mean, sure, yes, he did just confirm that cherry eye surgery was happening and that he had reasons to charge them with crimes. Sure, yes, he did admit to that. He did say that. But I mean, really? I mean, they all do it, guys. I mean, this isn't that abnormal from what every other facility that breeds beagles does, right? This isn't that dissimilar from what they do on factory farms and animal exploitation facilities all across the world, is it? That's the little secret, okay, that we're not supposed to talk about, but I know that you guys can keep the secret, okay? So let's just promise me you won't share this out. But this kind of shit happens everywhere. So it's really not that big a deal. And I don't know why we're making that big a deal. I'm embarrassed at my involvement after hearing from Tim. I apologize to Ridgeland Farms that they're fine. I'm sorry. It happens everywhere. It's a good reason to do nothing. Thank you for your inspiring message to do nothing, Tim. Thank you. I mean, you got to hand it to Tim. He does lead by example. He does lead by example, doesn't he, guys? I mean, he's not just telling you to do something that he wouldn't do himself. Right, Tim? Right? Don't call, don't email, don't respond to Wayne.
And lastly, I would say you can be an advocate and you can protest things, but try to do a little bit of research and thought and trying to figure out exactly what is going on and what does the law say. And we may not like.
He is right. You should research more into what's going on at Ridgeland Farms. That is something that we do agree on, Tim.
Animals being tested on, but it is legal. So unless the laws change.
Oh, but the cherry eye surgery wasn't legal? Is that right, Tim? Is that right? So animal testing is legal. Sure. Okay. And yet Ridgeland, you found you had enough evidence to charge with crimes. Is that right, Tim? Is that right? I just want to get this right because you want us to be so careful, right? I don't want to be haphazard and throw out accusations or anything like that, Tim. I'm just going by what you said, right? So you had, just to recap, Tim Greenkey, you had enough reason to charge Ridgeland with a crime, right? Yeah. Okay. Got it.
You can't just take law in your own hands and decide, I don't like something, so I'm going to stop it. It is legal to test on animals right now in this country, and as long as it's legal, business like this can exist.
Part of me hates to even bring these up, but I am seeing people post them on social media as though they're true. And you just said the same. Don't believe everything you read. I'm seeing so many people post things that are not accurate.
Sure. Yeah, they're the problem, lady. You know, maybe the people would post accurate information if the media would do their job and actually inform them. But it took a mass open rescue for you to even fucking bother, didn't it? It took a mass of hundreds of activists to go onto this facility for you to start giving a fuck, didn't it, blonde lady? Didn't it, bald guy? I mean, what the fuck does it take? This is what it takes for you to do your job. This is your backyard. You should have been covering this since the beginning, since 2017 and before that. Because, you know, the reason why activists went there is because you didn't do your job. It should be the journalists who are informing the public and not the activists. But as I've said before and said to my buddy Jake the other day, Plant Geezer, shout out Plant Geezer, activists are the new journalists because journalists don't do their fucking job. And I was one. So I can speak to that and have.
Because you investigated, can you tell our fans the allegation?
Did he investigate, lady? Did you listen to him? Did you listen to him? Journalist lady, reporter lady, radio lady on Wisconsin's only radio station. Did he investigate?
Allegations against a facility that you found there was no basis. Seeing people post them on social media as though they're true. And you just said the same. Don't believe everything you read. I'm seeing so many people post things that are not accurate. Because you investigated, can you tell our fans the allegations against a facility that you
don't have fans, lady.
Found there was no basis to charge?
Sure. One was something called devocalization, where animals were having their vocal cords cut. The allegation happened back in 2010, so that was so long ago I didn't spend a lot of time looking into it. The business disputed that, so I didn't really look too deep into that.
Okay. Yeah. Well, they denied it, right? So I didn't really look too much into that. Tim, man, guys, if you're going to commit crimes, La Crosse County is the place to do it because all you got to do is dispute it and he won't look into it. Oh, we found this body in your backyard, sir. It's your wife, and there was like all this evidence that you guys were having a very loud dispute that night. Everybody was calling in, and they were saying there's like all this noise going on over there, and I heard gunshots. And then the guy, he came outside. He had blood all over his clothes, and he had a shovel. And I saw him like digging a hole, and then he put this large object that may have been a human being into that hole and then started covering it up. I don't know. Look into that. Could you look into that, Tim Greenkey? Well, I did speak with that individual of who you speak with. He disputes it. So I didn't really look into it any further. And by the way, that happened in 2010. So yeah, it doesn't really matter now, does it? I mean, come on, statute of limitations, right? She's gone. Get over it, guys. I mean, come on, this happens everywhere. Tim Greenkey.
The proper shelter and space requirements, animals kept on farms are not all kept in what we would keep our pets in.
Thank you for saying that, Tim. Thank you for saying that. That's a problem, isn't it?
Pigs, cows, chickens. I mean, you can go to any farm and say, I'm not really sure I would want to live like that, but
yes,
when farms have hundreds or thousands of animals, that's how they're kept. And by the USDA standards, the beagles that were kept at Ridgeland Farms had enough space requirements. They were socialized. They were given enough food and water. So there just wasn't any truth to the fact that they were being caged and not let out.
Oh, no truth to it yet. You didn't really look into it, did you? You didn't look into it, did you? I mean, they denied it. And then the USDA didn't say that there was a problem, except that the USDA in January 2026, is that the year? Are we in 2026, Tim? Because this feels like a blast from the past. I feel like we're back in the 50s or 60s or something, because this is weird. This is the internet age where things last forever, Tim. So this is 2026. And back in January 29th, the USDA found 2 violations that Ridgeland Farms had committed. Now, had you visited the place, maybe you might have found those violations yourself, but that wasn't your job, right? It wasn't your job to look into Ridgeland Farms, was it? Was it? No, it was. Oh, it was. Shit. God damn it. Sorry, Tim. I can't get it straight. Look. I don't know whose authority it is. I know it's not Dane County. I know that. Dane County can't do anything about this. You can't do anything about this. USDA can't do anything about this. Department of Agriculture can't do anything about this. So it's best if people just keep quiet and not pressure anybody. Please, guys, God, it slows them down. It slows them down. You want to get these dogs out, don't you? They've got, look, I've given them until 2044 to be reasonable. Okay? 2040. Yes. Oh, guys, I'm so... I don't know. Isn't it like Ridgeland is such a great case study? Isn't it? Like they have become like such a great example of everything wrong with everything. And the authorities there in Dane County and this fucking guy, they are such a great example for us to highlight, aren't they? I mean, in a way, it's like, thank you for being so goddamn incompetent that we can highlight how broken this system is.
The sanitation standards and ventilation standards also, there were some violations noted in the past couple of years, but they were fixed right away. And for decades, the USDA and DADCAP had visited this farm and found no violations. And as I said before, any business that's visited by OSHA or DADCAP or USDA, there might be a violation here or there when you get your report, but you fix it, you remedy it, and you go on. Those are not usually treated as criminal matters. And then there were some notes that some beagles had some injuries to their feet, but they were remedied, they were being treated, they were being kept separate from other beagles. And again, having grown up around farms myself, any farm with hundreds of animals is going to have some animals that have an injury, a sickness, a disease, and they're being treated. So if the structure were causing the injuries, you'd expect to see hundreds, if not thousands, of problems, not just a couple. So those were some of the things that when
That's right. Yeah, Tim, you growing up around farms, you're definitely the person that we should be talking to. I need to plug in, make sure that I am not losing my charge here. But yeah, no, I'll keep talking. Tim, I'm glad that you're so reasonable, Tim. Thank you for not overreacting and getting all emotional like those pesky activists. It's nice to have a voice of reason, Tim. Someone who grew up around farms and just, like those animals. Yeah, sure. There's going to be some illness. There's going to be some injuries. That's just farming. That's just what happens when we confine animals and make them do what we want and use them for any reason that we want to. Isn't that right, Tim Grinke? Wow, he's like making some great points here. It kind of makes me think maybe we ought not do any of this stuff to animals. But that would be crazy. No, I wouldn't want to go that far. That would be such an emotional response to what he's saying. Like, oh man, it wouldn't be rational, would it, guys? Like that would be like, just me being such an animal lover, like a pussy animal lover. That's what, guys, I'm not that. Okay. I'm not. Okay. I am not weak like that. Trust me. I am a man. Okay. I'm a strong man. Okay. Meat is what makes a man. Okay. Just look at RFK Jr., our strong ally on this, meat, red meat, and if, by the way, I just want to point out, I know the economy's in the tank right now. Okay. I know red meat is very expensive. If you can't afford red meat, just get some liver, right? RFK, just get some liver. I heard you say, RFK, that a great nation is judged by how they treat their animals. What words of inspiring support. Thank you, RFK Jr., you champion of animals. Isn't it weird and sad that RFK Jr., who is against animal testing, might be a strong ally here? He might be. People are going to appeal to RFK Jr. and Donald Trump to do something about this place. What a world we live in. What a world.
I actually looked into it, the allegations sound bad, but when you look at all the documentation and all of the records from inspectors, you just find that it just wasn't being run in a way that these animals were being tortured or withheld food and water. The chair procedure was the only one that I found. They were not following the current veterinary standards. And they decided they were going to change that practice, and they're still being monitored by the veterinary board. But other than that, I had reports that they were euthanizing all their beagles, and that turned out not to be true. There were reports that they were torturing the beagles with electricity and other torture devices, and that's was found not to be true. So a lot of the things that people are seeing online are just that.
I'm sorry, who said that? I don't even know what he's referring to. Electricity devices. I don't even know. Look, this isn't complicated for me. It doesn't take an attorney, a rocket scientist, a veterinarian to know that this shit is wrong. It does not take much. And I'm sorry that you have overcomplicated this, Tim, and talked yourself out of doing anything. But, that's who you are, isn't it?
Things people are posting online that don't have any firsthand knowledge, and it's not coming from any reliable source.
Yeah, Tim, we've heard from both sides throughout the course of...
Wait, Tim, firsthand knowledge. Let's talk about firsthand knowledge now. Remind me again, did you visit Ridgeland Farms? Nope, didn't bother going there. No. Would you call that firsthand knowledge? I wouldn't. Sounds like you're getting your knowledge second, third, fourth hand, aren't you, Tim? Yeah. All right.
The week here, including from Wayne Zheng, who helped organize the break-in at Ridgeland Farms over the weekend. I had brought
It's called Ridgeland Farms, dude.
up the fact
You've been
organize,
reporting
the
on it now for the last 11 minutes and the last like 4 or 5 days. Welcome to the story, by the way.
break-in, both sides throughout the course of the week here, including from Wayne Zheng, who helped organize the break-in at Ridgeland Farms over the weekend. I had brought up the fact that Ridgeland Farms had not been convicted or found guilty of any of these. I had brought up the fact that Ridgeland Farms had not been convicted or found guilty of any of these charges in a court. I asked him why after he painted a picture of what he described as in a cruelty to animals situation inside the walls of the facility.
Oh, that Wayne. Oh, that Wayne. Painting pictures. Wayne, stop painting inaccurate pictures for this guy, okay? Stop deceiving everybody with your facts and your logic. Stop it, okay? Stop painting photographs, okay? Start painting abstract. Wayne, you're like a Van Gogh, Wayne. This picture, no, you're like a, who's that guy? Just stop painting, Wayne. I don't think that's, you're an incredible guy. I'll give you that, but a painter, I think not. I think not, Wayne.
I asked him why they haven't been criminally, not charged, but found guilty. And he said collusion. That was his answer. Collusion. How do you respond to that?
I don't think Wayne is credible.
Wayne's not credible. Just out of curiosity, how many times has Wayne been to Ridgeland versus how many times you've been to Ridgeland, sir? I don't know. I think the person who's bothered to visit is a little bit more credible. That's just me. That's just me. But again, I'm super emotional.
And the fact that he organized this break-in, announced it ahead of time and videotaped it, I think just tells you he's out for self-promotion.
Don't worry. I will help promote him. So don't you worry about that, Tim. He doesn't even have to promote himself. I'm going to help, and all my friends are going to help. So don't you worry. Don't you worry about that. Oh, Wayne, he just wants fame, that guy. Fucking Wayne.
And I just don't find him credible.
Yeah. You stopped responding to his emails, didn't you? Well, isn't that an extraordinary thing for him to say after having looked into, quote, air quotes, Ridgeland Farms, that he just decided that Wayne's not credible. I'm not going to talk to Wayne. It's just amazing, guys. Please let this radio station and Tim Greinke know what you thought about his performance here. Please share this interview far and wide. If you take anything from this, first of all, go to savethedogs.io and share this interview, because wow, what an incredible guy that guy is. Very amazing guy. Cares a lot. He wants you to be like him now. Let's remember, please be like him, do nothing. I once got a fortune cookie, guys. I want you to know that I was at a Chinese restaurant. I got this fortune cookie, opened it up, cracked open that little cookie, and inside it was a little message that said, to avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. And I think that's what Tim Greinke is trying to convey here. To avoid criticism, say nothing, do nothing, be nothing. Wise words. Pretty amazing. All right. I've got CNN pulled up. CNN. Hey, welcome to the story, CNN. But they didn't post it, did they? No, of course not. Beagle Freedom Project posted this. It's not like you can ask CNN to like make a post about this, right? No. Wolf Blitzer, by the way. You forgot her name. I have a lot to say about this interview.
Now, animal rights advocates are touting the recent arrest of activists at a Wisconsin facility that breeds beagles used for research. The activists say they rescued the dogs at Rigland Farms from abusive practices. Rigland Farms rejected those.
I want you to ask yourself a question, or maybe ask CNN a question, or ask AI or whatever the fuck you use a question. How much money does CNN pay Wolf Blitzer to report the news? And he just went on the air and mispronounced Ridgeland Farms twice at the very beginning of the story, which is the subject of the story that he is talking about. Now, just to give y'all a sense of what media is like, sure, it's fast-paced. Sure, this may not be his focus. Yeah, it may be a team of people that gave him the story and he's reading it for the first time. He's wearing a goddamn suit, goes on the air and says Rigland Farms. Nobody on his team bothered to pronounce it for him. Nobody at CNN bothered to pronounce the name of the farm that he's covering. I also want to point out that they could have interviewed anybody. Anybody on our team would have interviewed with CNN, and they didn't bother to interview someone that was there. Now, Shannon Keith is amazing, so I'm not saying she shouldn't be interviewed, but it's just kind of interesting that they would interview Shannon and not Wayne or Alexandra, who would very happily conducted this interview. Jesus Christ. I just want to see again.
Happening now.
Look. How do you put on a suit, Wolf, and do this? You woke up in the morning, put on a suit, got your big check from CNN, sat behind this desk, you received some information, you looked at some writing, they gave you some text, right? And it was RIDGLAN, and you didn't say, hey guys, real quick, how do I pronounce this place? Just want to get this right. This is CNN. This is serious. No, you didn't do that. You didn't do it, Wolf. That's why you make the big bucks, right, Wolf? Hey, Wolf, welcome to the story. I'm glad it finally got through to you. And I'm sure we'll see tons of coverage from CNN now on what's happening to animals. Tons, yeah. Okay. I have not watched this full interview, so I heard that this was actually a good interview. So I should probably tone it a little down on my criticism, but it's goddamn CNN. It's goddamn CNN.
Advocates are touting the recent arrest of activists at a Wisconsin facility that breeds beagles used for research. The activists say they rescued the dogs at Rigland Farms from abusive practices. Rigland Farms rejected those claims to other media outlets. CNN has reached out with a request for comment.
Joining us now is the president and founder of the Beagle Freedom Project, Shannon Keith. Now, we want to note, Shannon, you were not part of these arrests, but you follow animal testing very.
Just want to note that you are not part of the story that we're going to ask you about, but we brought you in because we didn't bother to ask the people who were there. And again, she's a badass and she should be interviewed about this, but I just don't understand like how that happens.
Very closely, particularly with beagles. What do you believe the broader impact of this operation will be, and what happens next for these beagles?
Yeah, the broader impact is that it educates the public about what is happening behind closed doors. Most people don't know what goes on in this dirty animal testing industry. And so I'm glad that the public is seeing how these animals are treated. The broader impact is that now Ridgeland is more put on blast than it was before. So Ridgeland has been the subject of so many violations. And in fact, there was a deal struck with the district attorney so that Ridgeland has to close on July 1st because of all of the violations that it has uncovered. And it has to basically get rid of all of the Beagles and surrender its breeding license by July 1st. But unfortunately, it is still having violations of the horrific treatment of the Beagles. So one group took matters into their own hands because it's still violating the law and treating these Beagles horribly. And that's why they performed that open rescue. And I'm glad that people can see what's happening because this doesn't get out to the public. And these poor Beagles, who are the #1 breed used for animal testing, bear the brunt of this and they get horribly treated.
Yeah.
Shannon, explain why Beagles. Explain to our viewers why this breed.
I'm just pausing because I don't know. Maybe CNN's got like some, maybe I'll get some copyright shit or something. I don't know. Maybe I should speed this one up. Hang on. And I am being critical. So it's kind of like when you're being critical of someone, they're more likely to flag you, right? But can I not? Should I just accept this as normal and fine and be like, oh, yeah, just go ahead, CNN, and just get it wrong?
Is used for testing in particular.
Yeah, unfortunately, and this is so horrific, Wolf, when I did my very first Beagle rescue from a laboratory, I was told by someone who works in the laboratory that Beagles are used for testing because they are so docile and forgiving. And forgiving was the word that hurt me so much. And I said, what do you mean forgiving? And she said, well, because we can go in, take them out of their cage, test on them, hurt them, do horrible things to them. And the next day we come back and they're wagging their tails and ready for us to just pick them up again because they are just so sweet.
Oh, that's heartbreaking. I want to watch some footage from your organization of Beagles believed to be walking on grass right here for the very first time. What are those moments like for someone like you whose life is dedicated to this work?
Oh, here we go. Those moments are so amazing. I have to say that they are life-changing. They are bittersweet. When I first liberated the first 2 dogs back in December 2010, I had a vision. I had a vision that they would just run out of their crates and be so excited and happy. But that didn't happen. They were too scared to come out of their crates. It took the first Beagle, Bigsby, 20 minutes to take his first step out of that crate because they had never seen the sunshine. They had never taken a step on grass. Most dogs and other animals in laboratories never get to go outside. So they were too scared of what this world was. And when they finally did, they were like, whoa, what is this? Eyes squinting, feet gingerly touching the grass. Like, what is this feeling? Finally, when they did, it was amazing, of course. But people need to understand that these dogs and other animals are not treated well. And it's a bittersweet moment. And we know there's so many more we have to rescue. Right now in Ridgeland, there's still over 2,100 dogs we need to get out.
All right, Shannon Keith, thank you so much. We appreciate you coming on and raising awareness about this. And everyone should also know that International Puppy Day is coming up on Monday. You can learn more about how to adopt a survivor of animal testing at bfp.org/rescue.
And as many of you probably remember, Pamela recently adopted Lucy Blitz Brown, the Hound Mix, our Situation Room mascot. There you see a picture. You can follow her, Lucy Blitz Brown, and you can follow her adventures on Instagram at Lucy Blitz Brown. We encourage you to adopt as well. And we'll.
I mean, that was a nice interview. It was, and it was very favorable. It's just late, like this happened days later. CNN should have been there. CNN should have been reporting on this for years. Wolf Blitzer should know the name Ridgeland Farms. But kudos to Shannon Keith for doing a beautiful job. So let me go ahead and put that in. And obviously for her amazing work over the years with Beagle Freedom Project, which is this channel, by the way, because again, I don't think CNN themselves posted this, which would be nice, CNN. Yeah, I saw that USA Today and Washington Post had done reels about it. It'd be nice to do actual journalism and report the news So I'm going to give an example now of someone who does report the news, which is few and far between these people. But my friend, I will call her my friend, and just one of the best journalists out there working on animal causes, Marina Bolotnikova of Vox, who has been on my channel, which I highly recommend you guys to go check out that interview. Marina, working for Vox, VOX, not Fox, Vox, was there, and she's been a rock star. So her and her future perfect team at Vox cover factory farming and animal exploitation and all these kinds of issues that are really vital. Kenny Torella over there at Vox doing the good work. So I've not read this. I just want to check it out with y'all, and we'll read it together. But here is Marina's take on what happened. And she's there in Madison. Yeah, she lives in Madison. So this is right in her backyard. You've already seen the images, the frightened, disoriented beagles, the solemn rescuers in Apollo-like biosuits, the lashing rain, the flustered police officers, and the raging silver pickup truck, as if an action movie set had spontaneously assembled itself in this tiny rural village outside Madison, Wisconsin. By a stroke of serendipity, also known as having an academic spouse, I happen to live in Madison. And so last weekend, I had a front row seat to one of the most viral, rousing events in the animal rights movement in several years. On the morning of March 15th, I watched dozens of activists storm Ridgeland Farms, the beleaguered dog factory farm that breeds beagles for biomedical experiments across the U.S. Within 20 minutes, the activists had breached Ridgeland's chain link perimeter and tightly sealed sheds, lifted 31 beagles out of wire cages, and bearing white flowers, marched the dogs down the muddy hill in front of the property. Outside, more rescuers waiting in a small armada of getaway vans loaded up the beagles and fled. 23 dogs made it to a way station from which they'll be adopted and rehomed. The remaining 8 were recaptured by police and returned to Ridgeland. And here's a photo of Alexandra Paul right here. And you got Derek, another rescuer. Incredible images captured. Coalition to Save the Ridgeland Dogs. Many readers know me for my writing on actions like these, but this was a sight unlike anything I'd experienced before, easily one of the most intense and dislocating experiences of my life. I didn't anticipate how hard it would be for me to return to my everyday life and responsibilities. It was also a unique experience for me in another way. Madison's animal rights community is small and close-knit, and I have personal ties to some of the activists who planned and participated in the rescue. I'm not, to be clear, one of these activists myself, but it would nevertheless be tricky for me to cover this action in a journalistic capacity. I'm approaching this debut Substack piece with the same assiduous attention to accuracy as I do in any other published story, but please consider it more of a personal reflection than a story with the weight and editorial standards of a news outlet behind it. This rescue had been a culmination of nearly a decade of activism that transformed a little-known breeder into one of the most controversial and contested animal facilities in the country, as Justin Marceau, a law professor at the University of Denver, whose Animal Activist Legal Defense Project plans to represent activists facing criminal charges from the action, put it to me. Ridgeland is one of America's largest remaining suppliers of dogs to labs where they are, depending on the study, confined in cages or pens, operated on, force-fed toxic doses of drugs and pesticides, and killed. As company co-owner Jim Burns himself put it in a 2015 interview with Isthmus, support your local alt weekly, what we do is not accepted by the general public as a positive thing. No, it is not. No, it is not, Jim Burns. No, it is not. Just want to make sure I check in the chat a little bit just to make sure I'm not missing any of y'all's amazing insights. Okay, let's see. By 2025, the company had entered an agreement with the state of Wisconsin to end its dog sales by July of this year in order to avoid criminal prosecution for animal cruelty. A remarkable coup for the campaign against Ridgeland that was directly and exclusively the result of animal advocates' efforts. But that deal put Ridgeland under no obligation to spare the lives of the approximately 2,000 beagles still there right now. And last month, a judge dismissed a lawsuit seeking those dogs' release. Having reached the end of the road of legal options to free these animals, a coalition of activists organized by movement leader Wayne Shung planned last weekend's action as an open rescue, a tactic I've written about a million times before, in which animals are removed from factory farms and other places of exploitation in defiance of whatever legal consequences might follow. Last Sunday, I got to the scene in time to see a mass of uniformed activists racing up the hill toward Ridgeland's compound. For those of us watching from public property, it was impossible to see what was going on inside. So for what felt like a long time, we waited. Police arrived. This was a challenging theater for an animal heist on any day, and all the more so on that day. The temperature was around freezing. At some point, it started to rain and later to hail. I walked back and forth in the road, futilely trying to get cops to answer my questions and talking to activists, by turns focused, frenetic, and giddy, who were setting up dog crates in the backs of rented cargo vans. I saw a pickup truck on Ridgeland's property aggressively racing uphill in reverse and wondered why it was doing that. Nobody knew whether any beagles would come out that day, and I did not really believe they would. Then the white-suited activists reemerged along the horizon, each cradling a vulnerable, bewildered, yet improbably trusting animal. I became fixated on the sight of the dog's tricolored fur drenched with freezing rain and wondered, as I had many times before, what the world looks like from the perspective of an animal who has never seen anything beyond the walls of her cage. Suddenly, I was filming as police seized a crated beagle from a rescue van, and over the furious objections of activists, pulled the terrified dog out of the crate and into a sheriff's cruiser. I was astonished by how quickly the morning kept splitting into new overlapping dramas. A few feet from me, a local activist was sitting in the driver's seat of a rescue van whose tires had been slashed by someone thought to be a relative of a Ridgeland owner. Later, I would learn about everything that had happened inside Ridgeland's facility and beyond it, how the rescuers couldn't break open the doors and had to dive in through a small window, how the silver pickup had been doing donuts around them and could easily have killed someone, how hard it had been to carry the heavy dogs through the hills and rain, how another activist had been driving 5 dogs away when he was stopped by police, arrested, and jailed. Look at that. In my work, I spend a lot of time thinking about the world as a set of trade-offs. Every choice we make to spend our time and resources on something is a choice not to spend them on something else, which is just as true of how we organize the economy as it is of the strategic decisions made by animal activists. For basically its entire existence, the animal rights movement has been like a great dialectic between two poles, radical tactics versus moderate ones, saving the lives of a small number of animals versus somewhat improving the lives of millions more living on factory farms. We are remarkably fractious and intellectually diverse for a tiny movement that no one likes. These debates can feel tedious, but they are morally important, and the mass rescue in Wisconsin can help clarify our thinking about them. Here are, in no particular order, some of my thoughts on those questions and on the Ridgeland action and the philosophy of direct action more generally. Number one, I don't make these kinds of superlative statements lightly, but I think this was obviously one of the most significant and far-reaching open rescues to date. The Milwaukee Journal Sentinel's TikTok post alone, with a simple montage of the rescue, has drawn 26 million views and counting. Dogs are an interesting wedge for animal liberationists because they can draw many people's attention to the reality that even the animals beloved by humanity are exploited commodities with no rights. The core problem in our relationship with all non-human animals. Whether that can raise consciousness around the exploitation of animals for food, I really don't know. But I think this action undoubtedly increases the odds that the remaining 2,000 beagles in Ridgeland's custody are released. Number two, the medium is the message. As the great Marshall McLuhan put it, The forms that communication takes matter even more than the content it carries because form changes how people think, feel, and pay attention. Different tactics tell very different stories about the world that activists want to create. The message in this case was that these dogs have intrinsically valuable lives worth living and worth sacrificing for, that humans can at any moment stop looking away from our atrocities against other animals and choose to intervene, an obviously different message than the one sent by haggling with corporations over a few inches of extra cage space. Not that that isn't also indispensable work. Lincoln Quirk, who went to jail for his participation in the Ridgeland rescue, made a similar point in a Substack piece. I wanted to show that there are things that any person can do, namely show up for stuff that's annoying, unpleasant, or even scary. Number 3, tactics also shape the minds of the people who participate in them. I loved Matt Beard's recent piece, "Your work will change you whether you like it or not," to borrow one of his images. I haven't seen this. People will cope until the ends of the earth to pretend they aren't spiritually connected with the work of their hands and the thing they spend the majority of their waking lives doing. If you're a programmer, your job is literally rewiring your brain to be more logical and machine-like. If you're a doctor, you're developing perfect associative recall. If you're a financier, you're becoming well-attuned to the idea of risk until you see it everywhere. If you aren't finding a modicum of purpose in your work, you are actively killing yourself and turning into someone you don't like. Better to quit than live like that. Wow. I don't know that person, but I could not agree with that statement more. Beard is talking about employment, but the point generalizes. Whatever work we do works on us in return. If you think it is unacceptable for animals to be bred on factory farms for biomedical research, there's a strong case for following that instinct through to its literal expression and seeing where it takes you. Number 4, bearing witness is a powerful thing. Hannah Arendt wrote that concentration camps were meant not just to kill people, but also to make witnessing impossible by destroying the conditions under which their suffering could acquire meaning, memory, or testimony. I think this is also a good characterization of what happens to billions of animals, hidden and exploited for human ends. And the act of coming together to bear witness, to paraphrase something my friend Elias Isquith remarked about neighborhood ice watches in Minneapolis, can also act as the basis for forming a political community. Number 5, for readers not already familiar with animal rights activism, it bears mentioning that although these actions can appear chaotic and freewheeling, and their success often does come down to improvised in-the-moment decisions, they depend on an enormous amount of detailed planning and organizing. Yeah, just a real quick, I just want to point out that the rescue itself is honestly the easy part of the whole. The easiest part of the whole thing is going on there and taking the dogs out. The other stuff, the planning, the coordinating, I was just glad, like I wasn't dealing with Airbnbs and shit. It's just, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Saving animals takes nothing. The real work was done outside of that. Number 6, and for those who might wonder whether invasive animal research isn't just a lamentable necessity of modern life, I'd recommend the perspectives in these pieces and books. Ask me for the others. I wonder what she recommended. Very curious now. I'll look at it later. Number 7, Ridgeland points to a new model for open rescue, a point that was made in activist Aiden K. A point that was made in activist Aiden K's piece about the action. The rescue derived its power from its relationship to a sustained campaign against Ridgeland that had been so successful that a judge found probable cause to believe the company had violated state animal cruelty law. My sense is that Ridgeland is very unpopular in Madison, and many of the rescuers last week reported receiving expressions of support from Trader Joe's workers, Uber drivers, jail staff, and even some police, and that is true. Chung is now calling for another much larger open rescue at Ridgeland next month, escalating pressure on authorities to find other means to release the animals, and you can sign up for that at the link that I have pinned. SaveTheDogs.io. Number 8. This represents an interesting shift in the aesthetics of open rescue. Previous actions had been organized to avoid the appearance of breaking and entering of property destruction, but this one quite openly celebrated the use of crowbars and angle grinders. The activists were asserting a claim to legitimacy. Judging from the public's reaction on social media, it does not seem like this bothered. Marina, what is this? Marina, look at me. Don't throw me curveballs when I'm going to read this thing. Bien pensant. What is that? I don't know what that word is. I'm sorry. Didn't bother whoever too much, though I wouldn't assume this generalizes to other actions. Damn, Marina. Threw me a big curveball there. Number 9, despite having, it's not like Ridgeland, okay? It's not like Wolf Blitzer. Now. All right. Despite having had ample advance warning, activists had openly declared their intent to break Beagles out of Ridgeland that weekend. Law enforcement failed to produce an effective response. Rescuers drove Beagles off the property in full view of the cops, which is incredible to me, most of whom manifestly did not want to be there. Sort of remarkably, Shung, along with other action leaders, Dean, Alexandra, Aditya, and Raquel, were released from jail last week without formal criminal charges from the district attorney. 2 years ago, prosecutors had already dropped charges against Shung, along with Eva Hammer and Paul Picklesheimer, for basically the same thing, removing 3 Beagles from Ridgeland in 2017. Filing charges now risks creating a courtroom battle that the state doesn't want. Not filing them might only encourage the activists to come back for more dogs. There's no winning for the prosecutor, Marceau told me. Ooh, I like this. Wayne Shung, after removing the Beagles from Ridgeland and walking free in 2017 and again in 2026. Wow. Unbelievable likeness to Wayne. That's funny. Number 10, many of these activists, nearly 30 were arrested and most released the same day, draw force simply from being normal members of their communities. On the Friday night before the rescue, I chatted with Jennifer Turkin, an affable Denver mom and preschool teacher who had never done something like this before. That's, by the way, the activist who spoke with that radio station that we looked at, who did a wonderful job, handled that interview so beautifully. 36 hours later, she was walking out of Ridgeland with a Beagle and later walking out of jail. Just as activists are personally transformed by these experiences, their moral courage forces the people around them to wonder what more they could be doing too. Here's some of the activists that were there when Wayne was released, and Alexander, Wayne, Alexandra, Dean, Aditya. Who else was in there? Raquel. There's my boy Pete. John. It's just some of the best human beings right there in that photo. 10, these actions can be really dangerous. Had someone been hurt by the driver of that pickup, who had also been walking around brandishing a knife, we'd be talking about this event very differently right now. Risk-taking is a necessary part of social change, but it can also be, and certainly is in this case, like playing with fire. It's not up to me to say which risks are worth their cost, but I think organizers have to be exceptionally judicious and transparent about what they're leading people into. Number 11, the mere act of removing a dog from Ridgeland and walking her into the light of day felt like it alchemically transformed her status from a research object into a subject with her own moral standing. It's unthinkable at this point to imagine law enforcement trying to hunt down and retrieve the Beagles that have been placed into loving homes. This is not to romanticize the dog's new lives, because life as a companion animal in many ways is not ideal even in the best of circumstances, as my colleague Kenny Torella has written. That's an interesting point. Number 12, journalism is crumbling all around us and it sucks. Preach, Marina. I'm with you. We've just looked at a couple examples of that. Fucking CNN talking about Ridgeland Farms. Late to the story, but I still thank them for covering it and allowing Shannon Keith to talk about rescuing Beagles, which she has done, and Beagle Freedom Project, and the Ridgeland Rescue. Journalism is crumbling all around us, and it sucks. The rescue attracted lots of local and regional coverage, but it merited a ton more. And there were very few journalists on site relative to the significance of this event. I think this would have gotten more national media attention even a couple of years ago. I don't know. I don't know about that theory. I'm not sure I agree with that because I don't know if the media is that interested in this. But anyway, 13, I must have anticipated that the rest of my life would revolve around animal rights debates when as a kid I internalized the very cliche Talmudic idea that saving someone's life is tantamount to saving the entire world. I extrapolate this to mean that every sentient creature has an infinite depth of conscious experience, and it's not so straightforward to sum up as some schools of moral thought today attempt to do, the pleasure and suffering of multiple individuals. The philosopher John Turek gave this concept its modern expression when he notoriously argued that it's not any better or worse to save 5 lives than it is to save 1 life. In reality, of course, I believe that numbers matter, that all else equal, it's better to help many than it is to help a few, and that perhaps the animal movement's most important task at the moment is to look for ways to incrementally mitigate the suffering of hundreds of millions of animals raised for food. I also think it is uniquely and irreducibly good to save a life, and it's hard to argue against an action that, with a few months of planning, saved 23 lives and fired up a bunch of new people about animal advocacy. 14, reflecting on his role in the mass rescue at Ridgeland, Aidan Kay wrote, I felt so certain that I had given my life purpose, that I was paying back my debt for being born on this earth. This is a nice point, though I wouldn't exactly co-sign it. I don't think any of us owes a debt for being alive. Life is a gift each of us is given unconditionally, but I do think we have a responsibility to share our gifts to the degree we each can and help others become more free. That was very, very good, Marina. Very, very powerful. I'm glad I read that live. I'm glad I read that live for you guys. There's a link. Make sure you subscribe to Marina's Substack. I think that was her first one, which is awesome. She has a lot of wisdom, a lot to say, and her Substack will be very valuable, I think. Also, her reporting, so make sure you follow Vox and Kenny Torella. That's really cool, too. Most importantly, guys, so do all that. Most importantly, click the link that I have pinned to this chat and sign up to save the dogs. They are hoping that this will go away. They are hoping that the animal rights movement is weak, that we're not united. Too much infighting. We can't get our, I don't want to use that speciesist language, but ducks in a row, right? We can't figure it out. That's what they're counting on. You see the response to this rescue is incredible. And hats off to you, Wayne, and Marina, and all the people sharing it. Pretty amazing. So, all right, guys, I am going to end the stream there. But there was a lot to cover there. And stay tuned. And please do sign up. And if you can't, just support in whatever role that you can. And Spooky, mad respect for the support, and thank you so much. It helps out so much, and I appreciate it. And I hope you guys have a good night. Take care.